What if, like, 85% of what worries you just never happens?
Hmm.
And for the 15% that does, what if you actually handle it better than you expected?
That's a powerful thought, isn't it? And it really gets to the core of what we're digging into today.
Right. This whole phenomenon of worry,
Hmm.
how we can kind of shift our relationship with it.
Yeah, and crucially, this isn't about, just thinking positively or ignoring problems.
No, absolutely not. It's based on science, on practical steps you can take to genuinely worry less.
Free up that mental energy.
Exactly. Get more life back, essentially.
Hmm.
So the mission here is to really understand the science, the practical stuff, to worry less and, well, live more.
Precisely. When we look at the material, it's about understanding why we worry like we do, those underlying mechanisms.
Hmm.
So you can actually use tangible strategies for change, moving beyond just feeling anxious to knowing what to do about it.
So let me ask you, listening, and this really jumped out from your notes. How much mental space does worry actually take up for you daily?
Mm.
Are you often kind of anticipating problems or, replaying scenarios over and over?
It's like trying to control things that, let's be honest, are often way outside our direct influence.
Yeah, it feels like carrying this invisible weight, this burden of what ifs.
That's a great way to put it, an invisible burden. And as we unpack the research you brought together, this burden has a real measurable cost. Think of it like a worry debt.
Worry debt, I like that.
The mental energy you pour into worrying, it's not just lost time, it's actively draining your cognitive resources. It impacts your well-being in pretty significant ways.
Okay, let's really unpack that, this worry debt. Because one thing your sources pointed out is how society almost encourages worry.
Mm.
The idea that good parents worry, dedicated employees worry. Like it's a sign of responsibility.
That's such a critical point, and it came up in several articles you shared. This deeply ingrained idea that worry equals care or diligence.
Right.
But the, let's say, less comfortable truth that emerges from the data is that excessive worry actually gets in the way.
It hinders our ability to deal with challenges effectively.
Exactly. The mental bandwidth taken up by worry just isn't available for actual problem solving or clear thinking.
And it's not just about lost time, is it? This worry debt seems to pile up some serious interest.
Oh, absolutely. That interest shows up as, well, feeling drained, making poorer decisions, even finding less joy in things.
Less capacity for joy.
Wow. Yeah, when your mind is constantly scanning for threats, rehearsing bad outcomes, you're basically running on empty. It makes it hard to be creative or present or just appreciate the good stuff.
Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting, based on the neurological research you flagged. It's not just in our heads, psychologically speaking. Chronic worry can actually change the brain, physically.
That's a major takeaway from the neuroscientific studies in your materials.
Yeah.
Over time, constant worry can alter brain structure. Yes, especially in areas vital for executive functions planning, emotional regulation, that sort of thing. The pathways for anxiety basically get stronger, more efficient,
So your brain literally gets better at worrying.
pretty much, and less good at accessing calm, rational thought.
And the prefrontal cortex, that's key for planning and decisions, right?
That's the one. And the research shows that folks with chronic anxiety often have reduced volume there.
Which directly impacts their ability to plan, make good judgments.
Even navigate social situations.
Yeah.
So it's this self-defeating loop. The worry you think is helping you prepare actually weakens the part of the brain that could help you cope.
Wow. That's a real paradox, isn't it?
It is. The more we try to control things by worrying, the less actual control we have because our cognitive tools are tied up.
And it doesn't just steal from the present moment either. You mentioned it can rob us of future experiences too.
Definitely. By constantly rehearsing negative outcomes, you're basically training your brain to see threats everywhere.
So you become less willing to try new things, step outside the comfort zone.
Exactly. You limit your willingness to embrace uncertainty, which, shrinks your world. We could call it psychological time theft.
Psychological time theft, that really paints a picture. And this internal preoccupation, it must spill over into relationships.
Oh, inevitably. If your mind is buzzing with anxiety, you can't be truly present with people.
You're there physically, but mentally.
Yeah.
Somewhere else.
Miles away, replaying something, anticipating something else. And that lack of real presence, it chips away at connection quality.
And then there's this link between worry and perfectionism. That came up a lot in your articles. They seem to feed each other.
They really do. Perfectionism sets these impossible standards, and then worry jumps in, anticipating failure. So you get stuck in this loop. When everything's perfect, then I'll relax.
But perfect never arrives.
Exactly, so the peace never comes.
It's like this attempt to protect ourselves,
Yes.
right? Avoid vulnerability by getting everything flawless.
Yeah, but the cost is huge. You never feel at ease, never feel good enough now.
You sacrifice the present, the only thing that's actually real.
For an imagined perfect future that stays out of reach.
So, considering all that, the big question that emerges from your materials is, what if you could reclaim that lost time and energy? What if you could redirect it towards creativity, connection, actually solving problems instead of just worrying about them?
The potential for transformation there is enormous. It really is.
And to figure out how to make that shift, we need to look closer at the science, at what you call the worry-addicted brain in your notes.
Right. It's not a character flaw. It's wire in.
Okay, so based on the sources, what's happening neurologically when we worry so much?
Well, like we touched on, the brain uses basically the same pathways for imagined threats as for real physical danger.
So that presentation you're dreading.
Your brain can trigger the same stress response, racing heart, sweaty palms, as if you were facing, I don't know, a tiger. The distinction isn't always clear to the older parts of the brain.
Which makes sense evolutionarily, right?
Right.
Worrying helped our ancestors survive.
Absolutely. The amygdala, the brain's threat detector, is always scanning. When it spots a potential threat, real or imagined,
Fight or flight kicks in.
exactly, floods the body with hormones to prepare for action.
But the issue now, as your sources highlight, is our modern world. Emails, social media, they're triggering this ancient system constantly.
Precisely. Our threat system is firing off for things that aren't actually life-threatening. Your body might react the same way to a critical email as it would to a predator. It can't always tell the difference.
And this becomes a self-feeding cycle. The stress hormones themselves keep us on edge.
Totally. Cortisol, adrenaline, they create hypervigilance. But because the threat is often just a thought, you don't physically burn off that energy.
It just circulates.
Right, keeping you feeling keyed up. And over time, the brain can almost crave the predictability of worry, that familiar hit of stress hormones. It sounds weird, but
No, I get that. And then there's negative visualization. Our brains tend to focus on the bad stuff.
that's right. It was a survival tool. Thinking about what could go wrong helped ancestors prepare. But now...
It leads to just endless rumination about unlikely bad outcomes.
Exactly. We give much more weight to potential problems than potential positives. It's a known bias, the negativity bias.
So this constant worry state, it has real physical effects beyond just feeling stressed. Your sources listed quite a few.
Oh, yeah. It messes with sleep, especially deep and REM sleep, the restorative stages.
Okay.
It can cause digestive problems, weaken the immune system, and some research even links it to faster cellular aging through telomere shortening.
Wow. That's significant. And you mentioned cognitive distortions too, these mental traps.
Yeah, these are like common thinking patterns that twist reality and make threats seem bigger, things like catastrophizing.
Blowing things way out of proportion.
Exactly. Or black and white thinking, no gray areas, just extremes. Or fortune telling, where you're convinced bad things will happen with no actual evidence.
They sound like bugs in our thinking software.
That's a good way to put it. They're common shortcuts the brain takes, not signs of being irrational.
Okay, so just understanding this stuff, that our bodies react to thoughts, that we have this negativity bias, it's the first step, right?
Absolutely. Understanding it allows you to start interrupting those automatic patterns. When your heart races, you can pause and ask, is this a real emergency or a thought?
Reality testing.
Right. And knowing about negative visualization helps you question those doom and gloom assumptions about the future.
You also outlined a quick exercise to break a worry spiral. Can you walk us through that again?
Sure, it's a simple 2-minute thing. First, just notice you're worrying, feel the tension, the racing thoughts.
Okay.
Then activate your relaxation response. Take 5 slow, deep breaths. Inhale for 4, exhale slowly for 6. That longer exhale stimulates the vagus nerve, signals safety.
Hand on chest, hand on belly can help.
Yeah, feeling the breath helps ground you. Then, the final step. Reorient to your surroundings using your senses. Name 5 things you see. 4 things you can touch, 3 you hear, 2 you smell, 1 you taste.
How does something so simple actually disrupt the worry?
It breaks the neurological cascade. The breathing shifts your nervous system, and engaging your senses pulls your brain out of that hypothetical future or past threat.
And into the present moment.
Exactly. Shifts you from emergency mode to assessment mode. Signals, I'm actually safe right now.
That's a really practical tool.
Mm.
So Moving beyond understanding, what daily practices did the material suggest to actually dissolve worry over time?
Well, the big idea from these sources is creating an environment, internal and external, where worry just doesn't thrive as easily.
Okay.
We often, without realizing it, maintain habits and surroundings that actually feed anxiety. So lasting change isn't just about coping skills, it's about strategically removing the fuel for worry.
Like weeding the worry garden. How do we do that?
One really powerful practice mentioned several times is creating worry windows.
Worry windows.
Yeah. Instead of letting worry barge in whenever, you schedule a specific time, say 15 minutes each day just for worrying.
You dedicate time to worry.
Exactly. If a worry pops up outside that window, you jot it down and deliberately postpone dealing with it until your scheduled time. It's about containing it, not suppressing it.
That sounds counterintuitive, but I can see how it creates boundaries.
It really does. That CEO case study you shared. She found 80% of the stuff she wrote down wasn't even urgent or relevant by the time her worry window arrived. It created huge mental space.
80%. Wow. What about the external environment, news, social media?
Yes, the sources are clear. Our environment matters. Think about how much news is designed to trigger our threat detection.
True.
And social media algorithms often amplify negativity. Even some relationships can keep us stuck in worry patterns. Taking stock of what you consume and who you interact with. Sometimes just removing a trigger is incredibly effective.
Sometimes the simplest solution is right there. Okay, what about this exposure hierarchy? That sounded a bit intense.
It can sound daunting, but it's a really systematic way to retrain your brain's fear response. The brain learns by doing.
So you face your fears gradually.
Exactly. You expose yourself bit by bit to things you fear, but in a manageable way. And when the bad thing you anticipate doesn't happen, your brain starts to recalibrate.
Like building a ladder towards the fear.
Precisely. You create steps. For social anxiety, maybe step one is eye contact, then asking a simple question, then a short chat, eventually maybe speaking to a small group. Each step teaches your brain, see, this is manageable. It's not catastrophic.
That makes sense. And mindfulness.
Mm.
It comes up so often with anxiety.
Yeah.
What's the practical application here, according to your sources?
In this context, mindfulness is really about learning to recognize and detach from worry thoughts. The key idea is you are not your thoughts.
Yeah.
You learn to observe them, almost like clouds passing by with curiosity without judgment. That creates space.
So you're not trying to wrestle them or push them away.
No, that usually backfires. Instead, when a worry thought comes up, you gently acknowledge it. Maybe label it mentally. Planning thought, or, okay, catastrophizing, or just ruminating.
Labeling it helps detach.
It does. It interrupts the automatic spiral. Then you gently guide your attention back to the present, your breath, sounds around you, physical sensations.
It feels like these practices, though simple, could really reshape brain habits over time.
They absolutely do. Every time you practice, you're strengthening new neural pathways. Eventually, those less worried pathways become the default. And importantly, these methods get at the root cause, how the brain processes threats, not just masking symptoms.
Okay, so we've talked about calming the threat response. But what about our relationship with mistakes? So much worry seems tied to the fear of messing up.
Oh, that's huge. We're so conditioned to see failure as bad, shameful, a sign we're not good enough.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. When did you last see someone genuinely celebrate making a mistake? Our whole system often pushes for perfection first time.
And that fear of failing can be totally paralyzing, right?
Yeah.
Stop you from even trying.
Exactly. But what if we flip the script? What if failure is just data, a necessary part of learning? Think of Edison and the light bulb.
Right. He didn't see them as failures, but as steps.
Thousands of steps. Each one taught him something. Or WD-40. Post-it notes both came from so-called failures.
It's rarely a straight line to success, is it?
Almost never. It's usually messy. The real difference often isn't avoiding setbacks, but how we relate to them when they happen.
You mentioned failure immunization. What's that about?
It's this cool idea, backed by research from Stanford, that intentionally having small, manageable failures actually builds resilience.
You mean deliberately messing up?
Not exactly messing up, but putting yourself in low-stakes situations where things might not go perfectly. It builds your tolerance for imperfection. You learn you can handle it.
Like trying a complex recipe or speaking up in a meeting even if you're unsure.
Exactly. Taking a dance class knowing you'll look awkward at first. Each little risk, each potential mini failure proves to your brain that imperfection isn't the end of the world.
This ties into Carol Dweck's growth mindset, right? Seeing challenges as learning opportunities.
Perfectly. A growth mindset says abilities aren't fixed, they develop. Setbacks become information. I can't do this yet. Not proof of limitation. Research even shows growth mindset brains react differently to errors, engaging more, processing them as learning moments.
So instead of beating ourselves up, we should ask, okay, what did I learn?
Yes, and a great practice is the failure resume. Listing setbacks and the lessons learned, it reveals the hidden value. Also using reflection questions. What went okay? What info did I gain? What's next? It shifts focus from blame to growth.
And self-compassion seems key here too.
Crucial. Treating yourself kindly like you would a friend, it builds resilience and the willingness to try again.
So by changing how we view failure, we cut off a major fuel source for worry.
Precisely. Imperfection is the path, not the problem. As you get okay with not being perfect, the anxiety around it just dissolves. You become freer to take risks, live more fully.
So let's imagine this liberated future then. Life beyond constant worry. What does that actually look and feel like based on the sources?
Well, one of the first things people notice is the shift in time. Hours once eaten by worry, they become available. For presence, creativity, connection, you literally get parts of your life back.
It's almost hard to imagine, isn't it? Without that worry hum, who are you? What fills the space?
That's where worry replacement comes in, something highlighted in the personal growth stuff you found. The mind needs engagement, so you consciously direct that freed up energy towards things you value.
You actively choose what fills the space, so worry doesn't just creep back in.
Exactly. Redirect, don't just suppress, like that graphic designer example you mentioned. Her creativity bloomed when worry about client feedback faded.
That's powerful. And relationships transform too.
Hugely. Without that internal chatter, analyzing, judging, you're just there with people. More available for real connection. Research links lower worry to better relationship satisfaction.
And the physical benefits.
They can be substantial. Better immune function, better sleep, digestion normalizing, maybe even improvements in chronic conditions linked to stress.
It also seems to free you up to take healthier risks.
Definitely. Studies show less worried entrepreneurs are more likely to take beneficial risks, leading to innovation. Same in creative fields, less anxiety equals more experimentation.
You also mentioned temporal abundance. What is that again?
It's this feeling that the present moment expands when you're not lost in negative futures. Time feels richer, less rushed when you're fully present. Research on mindfulness backs this subjective experience.
And the most hopeful part seems to be neuroplasticity. Our brains can change.
Absolutely. That's the empowering message. It doesn't matter how long you've worried, the brain can create new pathways. With consistent practice, you can retrain it.
So for someone listening wanting to take that first step, what's a good starting point from all this?
I'd say take a moment right now or later today. Visualize your life a year from now, but without the heavy weight of chronic worry. Really picture it.
Feel it physically, see the interactions.
Yes. Relax shoulders, deeper breathing, better sleep, positive interactions. Then, turn that vision into one tiny measurable goal for this week. Maybe 5 minutes of mindful breathing daily. Or challenging one worry thought. Or scheduling that first worry window. Make it specific.
Specificity drives action.
Exactly.
Okay, so wrapping this deep dive up, the core message is clear. Worry isn't helpful vigilance. It's actually robbing us.
It's a thief, yeah. Stealing time, energy, joy.
So here's the invitation for everyone listening this week. Pick one nagging worry, just one. The next time it pops up, instead of going down the rabbit hole, try that breathing exercise, just for a minute or two.
Interrupt the pattern.
Yes. And then consciously redirect that energy, even for 5 minutes, towards something that actually matters to you.
See what happens. Notice the small shifts when worry doesn't have that automatic grip.
Because that space that opens up when worry fades. It's not empty, it's possibility. And as we've explored, life's best stuff often comes from embracing imperfection. That's a great note to end on. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive today.
It was my pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep pushing for progress. Until next time, stay curious.